Welcome back to LDB Games. I'm Lord Darth Balls, and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video on how to beat the Scarab King. Now, when building a team to beat Borgoth the Scarab King, there are four main components that you need to think about. The first one is you need a shield champ. Borgoth has a passive in which whenever a champion attacks him and they are not wearing a shield, they do not have a shield buff up, he will counterattack. And his counterattacks can do a lot of damage. They can put out provokes, they can put out decreased speed, they can steal buffs, they can be very treacherous. So you don't want to trigger those counterattacks. And the way you do that is with a shield champ. Now the shield champ has to put a shield up for the same number of turns that the skill has cooldowns, so that there is always a shield up when your champions are attacking. The second is you need turn meter control. Like I said, Borgoth's attacks can be treacherous. They can do a lot of damage. They can mess up any speed tune you might try to do. They can throw out all kinds of nasty debuffs, and they can steal your buffs. So you want to keep the Borgoth, the Scarab King's turn meter down as much as possible to prevent him from taking a turn. Next, you need to be able to destroy his max HP. Borgoth starts with this big purple shield, and I'll show you when we go through the run. And with the shield up, it reduces like all of the damage that he takes. He basically takes no damage with that shield up. And so in order to, quickly and effectively take down this boss, you have to take that shield away. And the only way to do it is by decreasing his max HP. And the fourth is pretty simple. You just need the right accuracy and the right speed. Accuracy and speed in this game are the two most important stats. You need to stay with the boss or a little bit ahead of the boss, and you need to have enough accuracy to land your debuffs and to reduce the turn meter. So for my shield champion, I'm bringing in Lodric Falconheart. His A3 puts up shield for 2 turns and is on a 2-turn cooldown. So it's the perfect shield ability for this fight. I just recently put out a video where I walk through every single champion that has a shield mechanic in which the shield goes up for the same number of turns that the skill has cooldowns. However, if you don't have one of those champions, you can kind of make it work in a different way. Before I had Lodric, I used Zelota, and Zelota's got a shield on his A2 that goes up for 3 turns. Now it's on a 4-turn cooldown. So I brought in Sandlash Survivor, who has a buff extender. So Zelota would put the shield up for 3 turns, Sandlash would use her A2 and make that 3-turn shield a 4-turn shield, covering my team for the entirety for every one of their attacks. Now, Lodric is built in a shield set, so that when I get to the boss, I get a shield no matter what. So it doesn't matter what turn order they're in, because ideally you want your shield champion going first. Now, if you don't set the AI, actually this was before AI was around, I built this champion. So I had to make sure that by the time I got to the boss, if I was not manualing, I had a shield to protect myself while my cooldowns came back. So it's not entirely necessary, but it is nice to have that extra shield, both when you get to the boss and during the waves for some extra protection. You can see his gear is still not even maxed. I think it's the same gear from the video I did 2 years ago on stage 30, which I'll pin up top for you. But he's running 220 speed. He's got 62,000 HP, 2,700 defense. That's it. I don't really care about anything else. He does have a decreased attack on his A1, but it's irrelevant because Borgoth doesn't ever get a turn. So it doesn't ever come into play. I do have cruelty on him. I would probably change it around because there's 3 champions in this team that have cruelty, and it's really only effective with 1. So that's the shield champion that I use. Right now, for the turn meter champions, I bring in 3. I have an uncommon Armagert, who's got an A1 that decreases the turn meter by 30% if it's a critical hit. So the only thing you need to do is build him to 100% crit rate. You'll notice he's about 193 speed, which is on the slow end, but not that big deal. Not that big of a deal overall. I bring in Allure, who probably has the best turn meter control ability in the game. Her A1 is a triple hitter. Now it's random, but against the boss, it doesn't matter, right? There's only one target. And it decreases the turn meter by 25% for each critical hit. Same thing as Armiger. So with her, the only thing that's important is 100% crit rate. Now, she's built for a number of other reasons on my account. I use her in a number of different areas. So she's running, a little bit faster, 234. She's got a decent amount of attack, and I built her with a little bit of crit damage for some damage. And she's got enough accuracy to reduce the turn meter, right? Same thing with Armiger. He's got enough accuracy to reduce the turn meter. Now, Borgoth on stage 50 has 200 resistance, which means at minimum, you need 250 to 300 accuracy to reliably and consistently reduce the turn meter. And then I also bring in Coldheart. Coldheart has her 100% turn meter reduction on her A3. So, same thing with her. She's got to have at least, oh, look at that, she's a little low. She tends to still land it, even though the resistance is 200, which is kind of cool. Maybe I should probably glyph her or see about reworking her. I haven't touched her gear in a long time, but it works, so it's not that big a deal. And she's running a little slow at 185, but again, not a huge deal, right? The Scarab King at stage 50 is running at speed 200. So you really just need to be in and around 200 to make sure that you don't run away from the boss and the boss doesn't run away from you. Now, the third component that I mentioned was the decreased max HP. You'll notice both Coldheart and Armiger are built in Destroy set. Now, Destroy set, this is pretty much its only purpose in this game, is the Scarab King, because I don't think there's any other boss mechanic that relies on it, as heavily as Scarab does. And what this set does is a 4-piece set, and it destroys the enemy max HP by 40% of the damage dealt. Now, both Armiger and Coldheart are big hitters, especially Coldheart's A3, right? Scaling damage based on enemy max HP. So with Coldheart sitting at 262 crit damage and Armiger sitting at only 119, I can do a substantial amount of damage pretty quickly and break through that shield, and then I'm able to do actual damage to the boss. And then for the fifth champion, I bring in Stagnite. Stagnite is an incredible champion, and I bring him in for two reasons. One, he has a decreased defense and decreased attack on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2, right? Decreased defense helps me do more damage. Decreased attack will help me take less damage. Now, that really only applies for the waves, because Borgoth doesn't ever get a turn. And his A1 has decreased speed. And decreased speed helps me keep Borgoth's turn meter down as much as possible, because then his turn meter ticks are smaller with decreased speed, making it easier for me to stay ahead of him. And the same thing with him, right? He's got enough accuracy to do the job, and he's running, a 211 speed with some halfway decent effective HP. Do I have masteries? Armiger? Not really. Coldheart? Yes. And I went down to, let me move myself out of the way for this one real quick. I went down to Flawless Execution for the extra 20% crit damage. And I took a number of, I took Blood Shield because this guarantees that I get a fat shield when she uses her A3. And then I have just increased damage masteries, reducing cooldowns based on the amount of damage dealt, increasing damage to higher max HP, healing when you're below 50%, increased speed for each enemy killed to get her running faster by the time we get to the boss, crit damage, crit rate, and increasing damage when attacking with full HP. And I also went down the support tree. Now, Evil Eye is actually a very useful mastery for this fight. What this does is the first time you hit the enemy with your default skill, it'll give it a 20% reduction in turn meter, 5% for AoE, 20% for single target skills. So it's a really nice way to just kind of like knock back the turn meter real quick with an A1, and you don't have to rely necessarily on all of the turn meter abilities. So it gives you just that extra little bit of oomph to keep the Scarab King from getting his turn. Allure doesn't really have it. Stagnite is almost there. Notice he's got Evil Eye as well. I also went for Sniper to have a better chance of landing the decreased speed. And Lodric, not really. I did go down here and I got some increase in the amount of shields that he puts up, increase in the value of shields that he casts, so that his A2, his A3 puts up a big enough shield to do some type of protection in the waves. And in the past, if Morgoth ever got a turn, having a bigger shield was very useful. Now you'll also notice that Stag Knight has stalwart gear. When I was first building this team and facing this boss, this was necessary because I would take a lot of hits from the boss. And stalwart gear simply reduces the amount of damage that you take, right? Minus 30% damage taken from enemy AoE attacks, and all of Morgoth's skills are AoEs. So that's the team. There's no one here that's a requirement, right? I put a video out on turn meter champions for Dark Fae, and all of those champions are acceptable to stand in the place of any of these three. I'll make one that's a little bit more targeted to Morgoth in the future, so you can check that out. Before we get into the run, let's look at the AI real quick, and there's really nothing crazy about this AI. You don't do anything with Lodrix. Allure only has her round 3 AI set, and that's to stop her A2 and her A3 from being used, so that she only ever A1s on the boss, keeping the turn meter down. Armiger doesn't have anything. Stag Knight, the only thing he's got is I want him opening with his A1 against the boss so that I can land that decreased speed as soon as possible, right? Because I don't want Morgoth to get a turn. And Coldheart, nothing has changed, right? So now there's a couple things to watch out for when you do floor 50, because though turn meter reduction is critical for facing this boss, the waves are designed to negate that. It's really annoying. There's a lot of block damage, and you can, if you don't do this right, you can get caught in an endless loop. So you'll notice I actually targeted Broadmaw first. Broadmaw has a revive, and it puts block damage on the champion that he revives. So and the real problem is when you're left with one champion and that champion has block damage, there's so much turn meter control in here, you'll never let them get a turn, and they'll never let go of that block damage, and you'll just be caught in this endless loop. It'll get stuck at 1500 turns, and you'll be screwed. Now here, I actually want to target the Basilisks first. The Basilisks have a passive in which they revive themselves with block damage. So I want to make sure that I hit that, I take that passive, I let that passive get used, right? So that it's not constantly coming back. And then I want to go for Broadmaw, right? Because again, if there is one champion left with block damage, you're not getting anywhere. The fight will never end. So you'll notice I actually took this one out. Okay, cool. He's up. So now let's go for Broadmaw. And by the time Broadmaw goes down and I start taking down Jizzo and Krisk, right? He's about to get a turn. He loses his block damage, right? And he just got a turn. He loses his block damage. So now I'm clean, right? And then I get to the boss. Lodric has his shield set, so I have a shield up that protects Allure, who's the fastest in this team. And let's slow it down, actually, because I think, right, there's the decreased defense and weaken. No, not yet. Later rest. That was a nice chunk of the shield with the decreased max HP. There's a Heartseeker. Boom. That was a massive chunk of that shield. And you can see he's not taking damage at all. But once, let's speed it back up. Once this shield gets knocked out, and you'll watch it, it's got a really cool graphic. It's got a really cool image. Animation, that's the word I'm looking for. Wow, brain fart. When it breaks, yeah, there it is. It just shatters. It's really cool. And then now we really start doing damage. And you'll notice because of all the turn meter control I have, Morgoth never gets even close to taking a turn. And at this point, it's just a matter of time and damage. And there he is. Down he goes. Piece of cake. And there's no OP legendaries, super hard to get champions in here. Cold Heart's rare. right? She's pretty easy to get. Armor's are uncommon. You could buy him in the market. Stag Knight, if you were around for it, the very first battle pass before they started doing forge passes, he was free, which is pretty sweet. Logic is a past fusion, and there are a handful of champions that can stand in for him. And Allure is probably the most rare one here, but there are a lot of turn meter champions to take her place. So that's it, guys. That's the best and easiest way to beat Borgoth the Scarab King. If I helped you at all, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. I really make videos to help you beat this game or beat through pieces of content. Or if there's something that you're having struggles with, come join my Discord. I'd be more than happy to do a free takeover, as long as you're good with me making a video about it, and helping you build a team to get through some content that you're stuck on in this game. But I'm Lord Darth Balls, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Enjoy your raid.